Welcome to Nerd Sports. Today we're going to talk about Patches O'Houlihan, the Dodgeball King. And we're...
No, we can totally do Patches, but, before we get to the legend, we have to really kind of, when I say we, I'm talking about me, recap the last week's goings-ons.
Oh.
If that's even a phrase. Yeah, I guess it is now, whatever.
Anyways. Week 2.
Week 2, yeah, God, Lord. Like last week, we really got into it. I thought that we had a pretty good flow last week, but, obviously it's going to be an evolving thing. So.
And we're twinsies on the cups.
Twinsies on the cups, Looking at you, Black Rifle Coffee. BlackRifleCoffeeCompany.com. Thank you very much. But, week 2, so, let's kind of jump into it. Nothing really exciting happened in football last week. Just a lot of mock drafts talking about, which teams need to trade up, this, that, and the other. Really don't want to get into the draft talk, just simply due to the fact that, there's just so many varying different opinions out there about who should, what players are going to go when, who hurt their draft picks by, opening their mouths, a.k.a. Trevor Lawrence, or who helped their stock by having a good pro day, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the only thing I found on football for this week was NFL uniform power rankings. Where do refreshed Bengals land? It's that slow for football.
Yeah,
we don't have anything only because it's not football season.
Yeah,
so.
it was a slow week. So, racing. It was a pretty exciting day on racing on Sunday.
Oh, talking about racing, I was talking to JT of Black Rifle Coffee. Name drop. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
He didn't get to drive the speedboat, but Evan did, and they were talking. We were seeing like Marcus Luttrell. They're doing because they have to have the water test to where they flip they have like a simulator. It flips over. They have like snorkels and everything like that, and they get through. And you see like Marcus Luttrell do it, his brother do it, his twin brother.
Yeah, his twin brother, yeah.
Which I can't remember. Freaking if Luke was here, he'd probably beat the crap out of me. But you see Evan doing it and everything, and they got to drive that speedboat, and it was pretty awesome.
Wow, yeah. But yeah, so 7-time NASCAR Series Cup champion Jimmy Johnson, he started his Indycar career on Sunday. He's a rookie again for the first time in over 2 decades. He finished 19th on the day. Comparatively speaking, while that's not preferable, it's not top 15, not top 10, definitely not top 5. But, given the fact that he was driving a very heavier, closed-wheel stock car for the better part of 2 decades, transferring over to his very first open-wheel race, at what it was the race called, it was called the I think it was like the Honda Indycar Grand Prix of Alabama. It took place at the Barber International Raceway in Alabama. Huge, nasty wreck on lap 1. And Jimmy Johnson just kind of like navigated his way through the carnage. And, all in all, he had a pretty productive day as far as like the learning curve and things like that. Because the physics, the way that those cars handle versus the heavier stock cars, vastly different. There's a lot of adjustments that a driver in an IndyCar can do just with that $10,000 steering wheel alone.
Yeah, those things are freaking amazing if you actually look at them.
Yeah, if you look at them, there's more buttons and switches on those things. You'd think that they'd have plus with IndyCar, they've got like this button that you can increase the fuel mixture or the air fuel mixture. It's called an overtake button. You only get so many overtakes per race. You hear that term get used a lot, especially during the Indianapolis 500, because, once you get out front, you're basically out front unless you make a mistake or somebody's using their overtake button in a very economical way to kind of make their way through the field, and they save, a certain amount of overtakes until the end of the race. But in NASCAR, to draw a parallel from Jimmy Johnson is a great segue here. Alex Bowman, who took over the number 48 Allied Chevy Camaro for Hendrick Motorsports from Jimmy Johnson after he retired last year, he took that car back to victory lane for the first time this year and for the first time since 2017. And he did it at Richmond on Sunday, and he did it in a pretty convincing fashion. He had a really fast car. They made adjustments. They kept up with the changing conditions on the track, and you know, and so Jimmy Johnson actually tweeted out a congratulations to Alex Bowman and the race and the 48 team. Alex Bowman replied with a tweet. He was wearing a Jimmy Johnson T-shirt. He was like, and the caption on it was like, "It was all the shirt," you know. So it, you know, that really kind of brings back that, you know, the winning traditions for the 48 back to Hendrick Motorsports. And I mean, Alex Bowman's a good race car driver. He filled in for Dale Earnhardt Jr. for a couple of races back in, I think it was like 2016 or 2016 or 2017, I can't remember which. Whenever Dale Jr. was taking time out of the car to heal from a concussion that he had. But Alex Bowman's he's a really good race driver, and he's going to be around in the sport for a while, I believe. Especially, I mean, he starts stringing together top fives, top tens, starts stringing together wins. He's already qualified for the playoffs in the NASCAR Cup Series, so I mean that's going to be something to look forward to. But you know, it's you know, I mean, it just kind of goes to show that Jimmy Johnson, even though he's not in the series anymore, the fact that he is a 7-time champion, which only 2 other guys in that series have done it, which was Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. There's only 3 7-time champions in the history of that entire series, and the fact that Jimmy Johnson did it. I mean, yeah, he had his, you know, asshole from hell Cajon, you know, moments on the track where he's putting bumpers on people and moving them out of the way because they were just too slow for him. But the most part, Jimmy Johnson did it the right way. He raced his competitors with a lot of respect. He raced clean, and he represented the sport well. And he really became an ambassador for NASCAR, brought a lot of people into the sport, and a lot of those people are still there. So, you know, I mean, they've moved on, they've picked other drivers, or they're loyal to that car number, so now they're rooting for Alex Bowman. You know, so I really see Alex Bowman just kind of picking up that mantle and not necessarily having the same kind of success that Jimmy Johnson did, but at the same time, I really see him kind of picking up that torch and moving forward with that mantle, knowing, okay, hey, look, this number is going to become my own, but at the same time, you know, it's the legacy that he's got to uphold and the legacy that he's got to protect of that particular car number. So, but the next race for the NASCAR Cup Series, guys, is going to be the Geico 500 from Talladega Speedway, or Super Speedway in Talladega, Alabama. I've had a chance to go to this track. This is like a religious experience, okay? It's a 2.5-mile super speedway, okay? You don't lift at this track. I mean, there's a lot of drafting, a lot of bump drafting. I mean, there's a lot of aerodynamics that go into that particular track. These guys are running 3, 4, 5, 6 inches off of each other's fenders and doors, and in a lot of cases, the walls, at about 200 miles an hour. And you get a pack of 42, 43 cars running like that. You know, the air does funny things to your cars. I mean, if you'll watch that race on Sunday, and they'll show a lot of in-car shots, you know, from the cameras they have mounted inside the cars, you'll see those guys shimmying those steering wheels a lot, and you'll see the cars moving around, and you'll see the steering wheel hasn't moved at all, and it's because the air pushes those cars around.
High winds and stuff like that.
Well, it's the winds. It's because you've got these machines punching holes through the air. And the air, the further in the back in the pack that you go, it does things to the aerodynamics of your car. So, I mean, it's important to keep the fenders on your car. It's important to stay out of trouble. And the Talladega, there's 2 different trains of thought about Talladega. There's guys who love going there, and then you have your camp of guys who hate going there because you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you could have the fastest car all weekend long, and you can get out there and you could be a great pusher, you could be a great leader, and do all this. But somebody else makes a mistake at 200 miles an hour. You know, you hear terms like the big one where you get 8, 9, 10, sometimes up to 16 cars involved in the same wreck, and it's carnage.
Yeah, I seen the carnage that Ricky Bobby did that one day.
Well, you know, it's funny because I was there the weekend that they filmed that scene.
Wait a minute. What do you mean filmed?
Talladega Nights?
I thought it was a documentary.
No. God. Anyways, no.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Back.
but
Back
no,
to
but
real stuff.
it's funny because, like, from the Tri-Oval Tower where I was standing, you could see and hear everything. You could see the whole track, and I mean, even at 2.5 miles in length, I mean, these cars do not take very long to make a lap. I mean, at all. And it's just, like, okay, so I believe it was Jamie McMurray that wrecked in that race. And this is one of the wrecks that I remember the most. Coincidentally, it was Dale Jarrett's last victory before he retired. But Jamie McMurray's car wrecked. He spins down to the inside, and his car caught air up underneath it, so it lifted his car up, and it was spinning on its nose.
Yeah.
As it's skidding down the track, and it's spinning like this, and you could hear the sound of sheet metal ripping itself apart.
Like Whirlwind from Marvel Comics.
Kind of, but I mean, it just had this eeriness about it. It was like everybody stands up, and they're all pointing at the wreck. Smoke is going everywhere. One from the tire, two from the engine, just kind of tearing itself apart. But just the safety features that are put into these cars nowadays. I mean, you'll get some bumps and bruises, but I mean, you're going to walk away from that wreck. And I mean, case in point, like last year, the Daytona 500, Ryan Newman. We thought for sure we had just watched a man die on live TV. And if you haven't seen the wreck, pull up a YouTube footage of it, because I mean it's I mean, when it happened in real time, I'm watching this live on TV, and I'm just like, holy crap, this guy just died. But they added safety features to the car because of that wreck. I mean, every time that a car gets into a severe wreck, I mean, the wreckage of that car goes to a lab at NASCAR headquarters in Charlotte, and they analyze it, and they get with the safety teams and the competition teams, and they try to continually innovate these cars to make them safer to drive. The speeds are always going to be there. The dangers are always going to be there, because you're going to have that that intangible variable where you just don't know what's going to happen.
Who was it?
Ryan Newman, last year at the end of the Daytona 500 last year. Yeah, dude, that was a bad wreck. He was in a coma for like a day and a half, 2 days, and he had swelling on the brain. Hey, dude, I mean, like, his roll cage was crushed in because when his car flipped up in the air, he got hit by another car coming at 200 miles an hour to the start-finish line. And I know that my description of that is not going to give it any kind of justice at all. So when you look at that and you watch it,
I'm looking at the one in 2013 when it just flips over.
Yeah, no, it's the 2020 Daytona 500 Ryan Newman wreck. And dude,
oh, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
You said Daytona?
Yeah, Daytona 500. But yeah, I mean, if you're new to the sport, if you know about NASCAR, but you've got this stereotypical bias against it because it's just driving fast and turning left, watch Talladega this coming weekend, and just kind of really pay attention to the technical side of the sport, because, dude, I'm telling you, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, these guys literally, they have engineering degrees.
Whoa.
Right?
I'm looking at it right now. I don't know if I can actually put this on the cast.
But yeah.
But it literally.
Yeah, so if you're watching
I'll put it in the link at least.
Yeah.
I'll have it saved up, but it just looks wow.
Right. Now, he was care flighted to the hospital, and he was in a medically induced coma for like a day or two. But he woke up and walked out of the hospital with his 2 daughters.
Wow, just
and to this day he does not remember the wreck.
Well, yeah, it was his car went airborne, another car hit him, and his car was going about 200 miles per hour at the time. Yeah, I'm surprised he is not in a freaking body cast, because the way that, I mean, there wasn't much that car left.
Right. Now, these cars are designed to fly apart like that. The roll cages, there's so many reinforcements on these roll cages. There's personal protective equipment that these drivers wear, like a Hans device. Their necks are strapped to their shoulders. They've got a 5-point harness sitting in this carbon fiber seat, or carbon fiber slash aluminum steel seat that gets molded to the specific driver, and they're bolted into the floor pans of those cars. But racing, something's always going to happen in racing. You're going to inevitably see wrecks happen that you're like, there's no way that this dude's going to walk out of this. But inevitably the safety crews will get to those cars, and they'll pull those drivers out. Or so a lot of times the drivers will just drop their safety nets, their window nets, and they'll climb out of the car and they'll wait for this, for the safety crews to get there. And you're like, no, at the very least, if you and I are driving down the road and we take a wreck like that, no, somebody's getting put in the dirt.
Yeah.
But these race cars, while they are inherently dangerous, they're just becoming safer and safer to operate, and there's a lot of things that go into making that series competitive, or any racing series for that matter. We're talking about like aerodynamic packages, engine packages, suspension setups. Everything is basically controlled by NASCAR, and you're going to find those crew chiefs and those car chiefs that look for the gray areas in the rules. It's like Ray Evernham and Jeff Gordon one year brought a car. It was called the T-Rex car because it had a Jurassic Park promotional paint scheme on it.
Okay.
They brought it to the All-Star race that was usually held in Charlotte, North Carolina every year about mid-season. This car rolled off of they pulled it off the trailer, and it was fast. It passed all the techs, all the tech inspections, because there was nothing illegal on the car, but they abused and exploited every gray area in the rules, right? This car not only dominated, it spanked the field. This car, legendary, right? After the race was over, NASCAR officials went up to Chad Knaus, who was the crew chief of that car, or not Chad Knaus, Ray Evernham, I'm sorry. Went up to Ray Evernham after the race, and they were like, hey, don't bring that car back. And he goes, what? You said it was fine, nothing illegal on it. He goes, no, but tomorrow morning it will be.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so, they'll find exploits to the rules, and they'll try to push that envelope, and as soon as NASCAR figures it out, they'll be like, okay, that's an unfair advantage. We're gonna change the rules up a little bit. We're gonna make that setup illegal. Don't bring that back to the track, like ever. And so it's like, but it's a fun sport to watch, not only on TV, but if you go to a race in person, it's like an all-day event. So, usually I'll get there about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'll set up awning, tables, chairs, whatever. I usually have my first beer by like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll drink all day. We'll have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the track, right there in the parking lot where we parked. You hit the midway, you get as much free swag as you possibly can. You hit all the merchandise trailers for the drivers that you want to support. You go in, if you've got like a scanner and a set of headphones, you can listen to the radio traffic between your driver, the crew chief, and the spotter that's on top of the tower. And just you kind of really get an appreciation for what goes into making a race work. And because those cars, they've got mirrors, they've got a rearview mirror here, and they've got a mirror that they strap to the A-pillar here, so the driver can just kind of peek over a little bit. They rely on their spotters heavily. Which cars are coming up faster. Here's what the lap times for the guys behind you look like. That line was your fastest lap time around the track. You're going to hear things like, he's on your inside door, panel, clear. You're going to hear a lot of radio traffic going on between your driver and his spotter and his crew chief, because they're talking about, well, if the car's not behaving properly, here's what it's doing when I go into a turn versus the middle and the exit. here's what my drive off feels like. Here, it's starting to plow or it's starting to feel loose or tight. And they'll make adjustments. You can even make an adjustment to the way that a car handles by even so much as a quarter pound adjustment of air pressure in the tires. So, I mean, I used to watch NASCAR all the time with my dad. So, I mean, I kind of grew up being a Dale Earnhardt fan. And, I was like, to me it was just rooting for the number 3, but when I got older and I started learning about, the ins and outs of an actual car, and I started really getting into NASCAR, really kind of like understanding it from not only the sporting side, but the technical side of it, it just made the sport that much more enjoyable for me to watch because, it's like you find yourself rooting for certain situations and on the flip side for other certain situations to not happen. Like if a driver that you don't like say for me it's Joey Logano, can't stand that guy. I'm sure he's a decent person when he's asleep, but for the most part, whatever. Not to say the kid doesn't have talent, but at the same time, he makes sure that everybody knows it. He's one of those guys, at least to me, in my eyes, he is. But like if Joey Logano's winning a race, he's leading the race, and the laps are winding down. You pray for a caution. You pray for somebody to wreck. Or you pray for somebody to slow on the track, or NASCAR to see debris on the track, so they could throw a caution to gather the field back up. Because if Joey Logano's car's got good long run speed, but he's terrible on the restarts, okay, all right. Well, it takes his car X amount of laps to really kind of come back in to take advantage of the long run speed versus somebody else's car, like a Martin Truex Jr. or even a Denny Hamlin, but they've got short run speed, so they're good on restarts, and they can gap the field, or they can gap the second place car of Joey Logano at that point and get away from him, and they can keep that distance by hitting their marks on the track and keeping those consistent lap times. And if there's enough time left in the race, yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to be interesting. But the fact that Joey Logano is going to have to drive the wheels off of that car, use up his tires, and by the time he gets to the leader, he may not be able to pass because he doesn't have the tire life left on his car, and the handling's gone to shit. I mean, it's an evolving dynamic watching these races, and it's just kind of cool. Like for me, like on Sunday when I was watching Alex Bowman win, I mean, he had one of the faster cars on track, and he was making these really great lap times, and he had overcome a pit road penalty where a tire got loose. When the pit crew was changing tires, they have to maintain positive control of things that come on and off of that car at all times. It's a safety thing for the other crews on pit road. So a tire got loose. It was an uncontrolled tire is what the penalty was, and so he had to serve a penalty for that. I think it was like a pass-through penalty through pit road during a green lap, a green flag lap. But he made that up. He got track position back, and then there was a late caution, and so they did this restart, and he just nailed the restart, got out in front of the leaders, and just took off. And it ended up winning, and it was just really kind of cool to see because that, hey, his car's set up that way, and he really just kind of used he used the car the way that it was set up, and he raced the track, not so much the competition, but he raced the track, and really he just kind of put on a clinic, so to speak. So I mean, I don't want to say it was a dominant performance by him because Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr., they were trading. I mean, they led basically all but the lap that counted at the end. So, but it's just, for me, it's a cool sport to watch. And
you messed up a little bit.
Did I?
Yeah. Well, this one happened just 24 hours ago. The new football news that just came up. Alex Smith of
49ers?
Washington.
Oh, no. Alex Smith, the Washington Football Club, yeah.
Yeah, whatever they want to call themselves nowadays. After 16 years of football, he is retiring, stating that 2 years ago I was struck in a wheelchair starting down a mangled leg, wondering if I was able to play with my kids in the yard. On a routine play and almost lost everything but football. wouldn't give up on me because no, this isn't just a game. It's just what happens between those white lines on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, okay. So with Alex Smith retiring,
Oh, there's
he
another one.
he had really kind of a lackluster season last year. Yeah, he got Washington into the playoffs, which was cool. Ultimately they lost to Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, but I like Alex Smith. I do. The guy really personifies the not quit mentality that a lot of professional athletes have. He had what they called was the Joe Theismann injury. It took multiple surgeries, and the doctors told him, hey, look, you may lose your leg, you may never play football again, and he decided just to be like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm gonna get back out there. I'm gonna play. And he fought. He fought for like a season or two to come back from that, and I believe he got comeback player of the year last year. But yeah, I didn't see the news with him retiring. So hey, my bad.
No, well, this one's just 2 hours ago.
Okay.
So I know you couldn't have gotten this one. Steelers signed coach Mike Tillman.
Mike Tomlin. Yeah.
Mike Tomlin in a 3-year extended contract. Tomlin is 145 to 78 to 1 in 14 years with the Steelers, winning 1 Super Bowl and going to another.
Yeah. Mike Tomlin's a good coach.
I actually liked him as a coach. He's actually really good. The Steelers is the only team I actually watch. The only thing I don't like about the Steelers is most of the time most of the football teams nowadays, all they want to do is rush. They don't want to pass. They want to go for the safe bet. So
yeah, well, I think Ben Roethlisberger, I think he re-signed with them for like another year or two. Say what you want about Ben Roethlisberger. To me, he's just an overweight frat boy. That's all it is. Does he have talent? Yeah, obviously. The guy won a Super Bowl. He wins games. He's a good quarterback.
Well, they lost one of their big players a couple of years back. God, I can't remember his name, and I love the guy. The Hawaiian. Always had like the long hair.
Polamalu?
Yeah, Polamalu.
Yeah, Troy Polamalu. Yeah, no, he retired. But I think he works for one of the networks now. But anyway, so moving on from that. Thank you for picking up the slack, Mr. Fact Checker.
Yes, sir. I got you.
Baseball news. So yeah, the Dodgers continue to have the best record in baseball as of this morning. They're 13-4. The Red Sox, who celebrated Patriots Day yesterday, hence the jersey. They celebrated Patriots Day in Boston. They beat up the White Sox yesterday, 11-4. They scored 6 runs in the first inning yesterday.
Oh wow!
Now on the flip side of that, it was kind of them getting back at the White Sox for sweeping the doubleheader the day before. But Boston is they're at 11-4. They are now tied with Seattle for the best record in the American League.
Oh. No, I was watching this Bennett's drill by pitcher, and I'll see if I can find it to put it on there. This is definitely I can't actually record it and get it on there.
Yeah.
He ended up the ball went in. It was going to the strike zone. He went in. And he caught his elbow, like, right there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, God. And he's, like, down on the ground in this video.
Yeah, dude, getting pegged, getting drilled on the forearm, dude, that's a lot more painful and it has a lot more of an effect on you than people think. Whatever you do, don't rub it. Good God. No, just don't. Just let it swell, let it do its thing. But, yeah, I've almost passed out from getting hit on the arm. It's just because I don't know, it's just something about, I guess, like the arteries that are in there, just the area, the amount of nerve endings that are there. It hurts, man. Getting hit, period, hurts. But, especially when they're coming in at 90-plus miles an hour, it leaves a mark. But, on the flip side of best records in baseball, the New York Yankees are in sole possession of the worst record in the American League with a 5-10 mark as of this morning.
Why is it I can actually hear you get a Woody off of that?
There's probably a good reason.
Oh.
But the only team with a worse record than New York is the Colorado Rockies in the National League, and they are sporting a 4-12 record right now. But I mean, you kind of expect that coming out of Colorado. They traded away a lot of their great core players, and for lack of a better term, I guess they're in the middle of a rebuild. But what are you rebuilding from? Rebuilding from mediocrity? I don't necessarily know, but whatever. Personally, yes, obviously. In case you haven't figured it out already, I kind of find the fact that New York's got the worst record in the American League delightful.
That was really weird because back in the 2000s they had the best.
Yeah, I mean, they had some of those most consistent teams. You had that core five, But, those core five players that were on that team year in and year out, I mean, they just spent their entire careers as a Yankee kind of a thing. Like your Derek Jeters, you had your Jorge Posadas, you had Mariano Rivera. I mean, those three guys alone, were responsible for a lot of the championships that you saw, during the late 90s and the one championship that they fucking won in 2009, I think it was.
Didn't they win the championship in 2001?
No. No, they went to the World Series in 2001,
okay.
And they lost to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Anyways, that was a Game 7 loss. Thank you very much. And so to me, those are almost two beautiful words in professional sports. Game 7.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's no tomorrow. I mean, literally, both seasons end, regardless of the outcome. It's just about who's lifting that trophy, who's getting to take the beer bath in the locker room after the game's over, who's going to go home and get that parade. But there's really, obviously, there's no mistaking my disdain for the New York Yankees as an organization, but the fan base for that team has begun to turn its backs on them, and it's funny to watch this. I mean, it's kind of a phenomenon that is unique to the New York Yankees. They're either rabidly like, yeah, we're the Yankees, and or you get the, start spreading the booze. I mean, I think it was like the New York Post or something like that. One of the New York Times or New York's city newspapers. Some of the best headlines whenever the Yankees are doing shit. I mean, they're just absolutely just bombing it. The New York press is an amazing animal because they're either completely on board and they're drinking the Kool-Aid, or they are throwing you under the wreckage of the Titanic. It's amazing to watch.
I've never watched that movie.
Spoiler alert, the ship sank.
Sinks.
Yeah. But you'll notice that, New York has its fair share of fair weather fans, obviously. But, of course, as soon as the team figures it out and they start putting wins together, those fans come back wearing the same jerseys that they threw in the bottom of their closets. And it's funny. But, of course, when the team, is down, and God forbid the Yankees lose to, say, I don't know, the Red Sox, you'll inevitably hear chants about 27 rings. It's like, well, I'll never ever wake up a Red Sox fan and I'll go to bed knowing that my team has 27 rings. Like, look, we get it. We all get it. The Yankees have more championships than anyone in professional sports, and Yankees fans cling to that little factoid better than Iran cling to the claim that the Holocaust never happened. Okay? It happened. We all know it. Acknowledge it. Move on. Quit talking about it. Quit talking about teams from the past, because unlike that light bulb that y'all are unable to change, there's another one right there on the shelf. So let's just focus on the team that you've got now. Focus on the product that's out there on the field that you guys are paying overpriced tickets for, because somehow or the other you have figured that it's okay for us to enable this ownership group, the Steinbrenner boys, who the sons of George Steinbrenner. They took over the team after their dad died. And now, if George Steinbrenner was still alive and he was still running the team, I guarantee you that the manager, Aaron Boone, he would have been gone a long time ago. mean, he gets to the playoffs and he gets his team to the ALCS a couple of times, and then they lose. They don't get to the World Series, and he mismanages the bullpen from time to time. He jacks with the lineup from time to time and makes some kind of the most off the wall kind of like managerial decisions. But like with the start, the 5-10 start, or the 5 and what was it I said, the 5-10 start that the Yankees have been enduring so far this into this young season, he'd have been out. And the Steinbrenner boys, they're trying to take a more conservative. Well, no, I don't want to say conservative. They're trying to take a more contemporary approach to owning a team. They'll let a lot of their good bullpen arms go, like Adam Ottavino. He got picked up by the Red Sox, an interdivisional rival, the rival of all rivals for the New York Yankees. Yeah. The Red Sox picked up Adam Ottavino. I mean, this dude, he has his moments where he likes to drag his gas can out to the hump and burn the whole stadium down. But for the most part, the dude's an absolute stud coming out of the pen.
Did he actually do that?
No. No, he didn't. He didn't decide to go out there and pull an Eric Gagne. And for those of you who know who Eric Gagne is, you know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who don't know, look it up. Trust me, it's worth a Google. It's kind of funny to watch the Yankees build this team, right? I mean, you get these names out there. I mean, you've got Garrett Cole, you've got Aaron Judge. You've got a lot of these guys like Gary LeMahieu, Brett Gardner. I mean, these are some really solid baseball players who are just all in playing for the Yankees. And you find a lot of guys who you think their careers are over, like Rougned Odor. He got released by the Rangers this year. Just because, I mean, honestly, the dude, he's got pop in his bat. He's got a high strikeout rate because that's all he wants to do. He's not a hitter. He's a slugger. And he's not a very good slugger. And defensively, he's kind of like a liability. For those of you who are familiar with Rougned Odor, the biggest hit of his career was when he connected with a right hook to Joey Batista's jaw.
What the hell?
Yeah, so, I mean, the guy is either, he's swing big or just don't swing at all kind of a guy, and it's really kind of it's kind of an entertaining player to watch from that standpoint, because you're just like, okay, which Rougned Odor is going to show up at this at bat, but these Yankee teams that get built and they either go over the luxury tax cap, or like this year they're trying to stay under it to avoid having to pay that luxury tax, which gets divided equally amongst the smaller market teams to try to help bring parity back to baseball. It's funny because regardless as to who's on the roster, like Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, I mean, they both play hurt or they get hurt and they're not playing, or they're healthy. And Aaron Judge, I think, is a better swinger. He's a better hitter than Giancarlo Stanton. Yeah, well, Giancarlo Stanton can hit a ball, 400-something feet. That's great. That's fine. But when you make contact with the ball, it was like a few years ago. I think it was like 2018. The Yankees were in Fenway playing the Red Sox. Giancarlo Stanton hit a home run, right? To show you the level of rivalry, a little bit kind of backtrack here. A fan who was sitting in the monster seats took the home run ball that Giancarlo Stanton just put there, and this fan chucked the ball back out onto the field of play. Giancarlo Stanton is rounding second base on his way to third, and he gets hit on the fly with this ball that the fan just threw from the outfield.
Good Lord.
And everybody was like, whoa, and Giancarlo Stanton, I'll give him this, the dude's a class act. I mean, he does carry a bit of class, even though I think some of his underrated bravado is earned just because of when he played for the Marlins, I mean, the dude was a standout on that team. And when the Yankees picked him up, that's when you really started seeing his injury-prone habits start to come to the surface. But I mean, all Giancarlo did was he looked up at the stands, and he just kind of tipped his helmet to the fan that threw that ball, and he just went on about his way. But I mean, that clip got so much play for like the next couple of weeks. I mean, there was even like jokes going around that, like, hey, maybe the Red Sox need to sign this guy to a developmental deal and just put him in the minor leagues or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like one of those storybook kind of deals where, like the fan that went to an A's game and they had this speed gun set up out in the concourse, and this guy's throwing like 93, 94 miles an hour, and they signed him to a minor league deal on the spot, and it's like, oh, well, that shit doesn't happen like ever until now. That's a cool baseball story, but
That happened recently, didn't it?
no, that was I think it was like a couple of years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. But and the guy eventually he made his major league debut.
Oh, cool.
Now, whether or not he's still playing, I don't know. Don't quote me on it. I don't even want to take the time and effort to go in there and kind of look at it. But, do I think the Yankees are going to put it together? Yeah, I think that they're going to figure it out a little bit. They're going to make some adjustments with their rosters. They're going to learn how to manage their personnel a little bit better. And will they get into the hunt of things? Possibly. At the beginning of the season, I thought maybe, okay, based on the strength of their roster, yeah, they were kind of a lock to win the division. Being a Red Sox fan, I'm incredibly cynical of the roster that they put out every year. They did well in spring training, but you can never take your sample, the small sample size from spring training, and kind of translate that over to the regular season. You can't do it. You can have a great spring. I mean, you can win. You can win spring training, but then when you get to the regular season, over that 162 game grind, will the numbers translate? Most of the time, they don't. Just because you don't see your regulars every game. You've got your minor league guys, you got your non-roster invitees that are there in camp trying to make the team, or at the very least trying to get a minor league deal signed with the club, so that way they can stay playing baseball versus trying to go find a job somewhere else. So I mean, I really don't put a lot into spring training. I just love spring training just because I know that, hey, in about a month and a half, we got real baseball that counts that's starting. And for the next 6 months, my life is good, Even if my team is just dwelling in the basement like they did all year last year, I still enjoy it because, like I talked about last week when we were talking about urinating on Yankee Stadium. I mean, it's when I go in through the turnstiles, that is a cathedral to me. That's church. I mean, that's an institution that demands respect. Even though we've got guys like the commissioner of baseball right now, Rob Manfred. I mean, he's doing his best to fuck the sport up. I mean, I know we just increase the pace of play. We want to make it more marketable. Well, how about you base your marketing strategy off of the strengths and the traditions of the game as it relates to being Americana.
Yeah, most people that actually get like college degrees in marketing or business and everything like that, they actually teach them almost the wrong ways to look for it. It's like, oh, you have to look for this. But in actual business sense, a person that doesn't have a college degree and everything like that hires a dumb fuck like that,
yeah,
they actually know more about business. Especially like I was talking to Dan Hathaway about it, about business sense of, look at where your market's at like right now. Right now, our market sense is more or less veterans because a lot of our friends are veterans. And a lot of the people that, or just good old boys that like a good laugh. If we went against that market, we wouldn't have people watching. So we don't go against that market that we've built so far, even if it's like 4 to 10 views on a lot of our stuff that we're doing.
Right.
But I would never go against my market and start doing, oh, you know what we should do now? Let's do makeup. All the people that are watching everything, they need makeup tutorials. Now,
right.
Granted, they might need some makeup tutorials for their daughters if they have daughters, or if they have a son that wants to go as a daughter. But It's the thing. That's one thing I like about doing this stuff is someone coming up to me and is like, hey, can you do an episode about this? I was like, yeah, sure. I don't see why not.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like the people who run these professional organizations like the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball, and even to some degree, the NHL. Because I think for the most part, hockey has stayed very, very, very consistent with their product. They don't tamper with the rules a whole lot. They may tweak some of the rules as far as like fouls are concerned, like the definition of what it means to do this, to do that. But for the most part, hockey has stayed pretty consistent and pretty static as far as, what they put out there for consumption.
And speaking on hockey news, Sharks' Patrick Marleau passes Gordie Howitt's record for the most NHL games.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. It was like 1,700 and I think of like 60-something games.
1,000. Wait a minute. What the hell? That's a lot of games. 1,768.
68. Yeah.
Contest.
Yeah. And they were playing the Minnesota Wild, and the Minnesota Wild team. I mean, they paid the respects to this guy. Each one of them skated right by and shook his hand. And to me, the NHL. I mean, that's just a hard sport,
If you're a Metallica fan, James Hetfield of Metallica takes us on the journey throughout Patty's career on Twitter on the NHL Twitter account.
Oh, that's cool. I'll check it out later.
Yeah.
But
we can't put it up on the air.
No. But as far as getting back to with marketing for a lot of these professional organizations, do I think that okay, the NFL really took it up to a new level last year with the equality and racism, and it takes all of us. And remember how last week we talked about if you're going to have an opinion, have an educated opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Social justice issues, fine. I get it. That's part of our lexicon, and it's going to be for a long time, if not forever. But it is just so glaringly and blatantly driven by ideology that it really almost to a certain point becomes laughable. It's like, okay, you look at it, you see these teams or these players, they're wearing slogans on the back of their helmets that talk about, end racism and this. That's fine. I'm all for that. Okay, I'm all about equality. I'm an equal opportunity hater. I look at everybody with the same amount of disdain, and that may be to a fault, but hey, that's me. You let me do me, whatever.
But it also stands to the point to where, like, people watching baseball. People used to watch baseball, and they were hands-on everything Americana.
Yeah.
And just go to the point to where there were a couple of protesters in 1976 that Rick Monday saved the flag from being burned because a couple of protesters were trying to burn it on the field.
Yeah, baseball, and I always think about that that miniseries that, and the name is escaping me.
What was the miniseries about?
Shit, what was it? Robert Burns, I think is. Anyway, is the guy that did the Civil War series. He did one about baseball as well. And you're looking it up, thank you, because the name is just like right there, and I can't grab it. But, with, I think about that, and I think about the speech that James Earl Jones gave in the Field of Dreams. And to me, yeah, baseball is not necessarily just a sport, but I think that it's really for a lot of people, myself included, it's a way of life.
You want to hear what the baseball, the name of it was?
What?
Baseball.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I've
It
got
was
the
just one
hardback. I've got the hardback book for it at the house. But
And it was Kent Burns.
Ken Burns, thank you, Ken Burns. I knew the last name. Ken Burns, thank you. You know, sorry. Um, but we're gonna, it stick with your roots. I mean, you can bring in the new and exciting stuff, and you can really hype up the new and exciting players. But as far as what the game is, stick to that. And let's not make it a political thing. And let's not make this a platform for your political ideology on either side of the aisle. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. I don't care. Keep sports sports. They are not a political platform to push an ideology. And so, I mean, okay, so again, getting back to what I was trying to say, people get turned off by politics, and there's a reason why we gravitate to sports. One, it's the competitive, side of us as far as human nature is concerned. That's primal. That's always going to be there. But for a lot of us, it's an escape from not necessarily reality, but it gives us a means upon which to decompress. Like a lot of people, they play video games, or you play your role-playing games with your your 20-sided dice, whatever, and or your Magic the Gathering, and that's an escape.
Yeah.
We use that as a stress reliever. Sports is the same thing, whether it's golf, racing, football, basketball, baseball, doesn't matter. It's an escape. But when professional athletes in those organizations, when the head offices and the commissioners of those sports use that as a platform to push to push a political message, again, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, I think it's bullshit. Leave it alone. Like last year, and in no way, shape, form, or fashion take my Caucasianness as any indication of my racial inclination, because again, I don't care. I've got friends of all colors, and I served with guys who were Hispanic, and served guys that were black, served guys that were white and Asian. To me, we all bleed red, and those guys are my brothers, and they always will be until the day that we die. Okay? That's it. Pure, plain, and simple. Okay? Every ethnicity is going to have its group of bad apples that's going to make that particular group look bad. Okay? I get it. That's just something that's always going to be there because it's part of human nature. It's been that way since we stepped foot on this planet. Okay? Since we were created, evolved, whatever your viewpoint is, the entire course of history, we've always had people that just excelled at being horses' asses. Okay? But leave politics out of it. I don't want to see BLM on the backside of a fucking pitcher's mound. I don't want to see messages about, justice for Floyd or anything like that on the back of a football helmet. I don't want to see dudes kneeling for the national anthem. If you want to protest, do it outside of work. Okay? You and me, we go into a place of business as an employee. If we voice our opinion, we demonstrate, like striking or whatever, we would be subject to termination.
Yeah.
Okay. These guys and these guys and girls that are out here as professional athletes using their job as a platform, kneeling during the national anthem. Fuck you. Okay? Yeah. Screw you, because look, I get it. That's what your Twitter account is for. That's what your Facebook page is for. That's what your social media accounts are for. Don't do it at work.
Yeah, and in most cases, and some of those people that are so-called influencers and everything, they have more views on on their protests and everything than people actually watch the sports events.
Right. And okay, it's like, all right, look, and you can call me xenophobic, you can call me racist, whatever. I mean, you can call me anything you want. That's on you to prove it. It really is. That's on you to prove it. Okay. But if you're gonna come at me with some kind of accusation saying that I'm this, that, or the other, you've got to go out of your way to prove it. But so I'm just kind of putting it out there now. I'm not hearing what you got to say because I know who I am. I'm transparent about it, and you don't like it, you can exercise your freedom of choice in this country to tune us out or just hit the mute button while I'm talking and they can listen to you all day. I don't care. So, but
There's gonna be a lot of dead space because I barely talk around the sports show.
well, on the sports show, yeah. But I mean, when we get to our other outlets, yeah. But when you come to work, you come to work. You're there to play a game. Play your game. Show up. Stand. I mean, if the national anthem is playing, whether it's "O Canada," whether if it's the Star Spangled Banner, you fucking stand.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to step on the American flag after you leave the stadium, when you're in civilian clothes and you're out doing, exercising your freedom of speech, fine.
Oh, that reminds me. I did this when I was coming back from Polar Archery Challenge this weekend. Was guy had on his car an upside down flag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any military personnel.
Right, it's a sign of distress. Yeah.
So I followed them out and was like, "Hey, buddy, you doing all right and everything like that?" It's like, "Why? Oh, you got an upside down flag." Well, I'm doing a protest. Blah blah blah. I was like, "Fix the flag," because it's to the point where a person like me will make sure that you're all right. And I will hound you each and every time to make sure that you're doing all right. Yeah, it might be a good thing. You could have mental problems and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
And someone told him to do that. But we have a lot of the stuff that's in place for such situations.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple of times that a person did do that, had an upside down American flag, and they went over to the person's house and they were doing slave trade.
Yeah.
Slave trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Sex trafficking.
Human trafficking, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, that's exactly my point. If you want to demonstrate, you want to make a point, you want to get your voice out there, you want to be heard, do it on your own time. But when people like myself pay money to either go to a game or we're paying for a premium package to stream the games live from home because you're playing out of town or, like me, I'm a Red Sox fan. I live in the Texas Rangers market. I can't exactly go to a home game whenever I fucking feel like it. I want to be able to watch or listen to the games. I'm paying to do that.
Yeah.
Save your political banter and your opinions for when you're not at work. Because
basically they're wasting your time and money.
They are. They're wasting my time. They're wasting my money. And
they're
wasting the time and money of a lot of other people. Whether you agree with them or not, when you're at work, go to work. Do your job. I mean, that's my take on it. Do your job. Voice your opinions and your ideology after you're out of the locker room.
Yeah,
you turn your phones back on. You log back into all your social media apps. You can tweet until your heart's content. You can put bullshit up on Facebook until your heart's content. You can post all of these, images on your Instagram. I don't care. Get on TikTok. I don't care. Just don't do it at work. When you put that uniform on and you step out of that dugout, you're at work. Do your job. I will do the same thing. It's not one of these, you're able to put stuff on your desk that shows pieces of your personality. That's fine, but I'm not sitting there and putting, anti-Antifa shit on my desk. I'm not sitting there putting anti-BLM stuff on my desk. I'm not sitting there putting Blue Lives Matters on my desk. I put stuff that relates to me. And when I worked at a call center, we were able to put kind of things on our desk to decorate a little bit. I had pictures of my kids. I had an American flag on my desk. I'd keep my coffee cup there, but
I'm surprised you don't have like a Matt Best shrine.
No, it's not a Matt Best shrine. No.
Is it close?
Not even. No, not even. Not even. No.
Funny story is I went to the Total Archery Challenge this weekend.
Yes.
And
transparency moment here.
He was thinking that he was going to be Johnny was going to be a badass and everything. He's like, you better get me a FaceTime with Matt Best, or I'm going to. You just figure it out.
So you're giving a very skewed Cliff Notes here. So
I will post the photo of
let
the
me
conversation.
finish. Let me finish. He's bragging that he's going to meet Evan Hafer, and he's Matt Best is going to be there.
Which I didn't get to meet Evan Hafer. I was kind of upset about that.
Okay, so nanny boo boo. So
yeah,
it's not me trying to be a badass. I was just like, I'm like, okay, there's no way that this is going to happen anyway, so I'm just going to talk a little bit of smack. I'm like, you better get me a FaceTime call from him, it's whatever,
Okay.
So I'm laying there, I'm sitting there with my kids, watching a movie, and my phone rings, and it's him on FaceTime, and I'm like, okay, so I need to answer this. So I swiped and open my screen and answer the call, and lo and behold, there's Matt Best on my phone screen, and I'm like, oh shit,
Dave doesn't fuck around.
I'm like, okay, so and to my credit, I was very transparent with Matt, and I told him, I was like, I am trying really hard not to fanboy right now. I complimented him on his new video, Blind Date, which is a great video. And then he's like, Blind Date, and he shows off his wife behind him, and I'm like, that's what it's about right there. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
To me, so, and my dad said hi to him. So I'm like, hey, this is cool for me, So, thank you for that experience. That was pretty cool. I'm giving you props there. But, it's not one of these, put him up on a pedestal and idolize the guy. I respect everything that he's done. And do I think it would be kind of cool to meet him in person, hang out, maybe have a beer or two and just kind of, chill? Yeah, fine. But, but getting back to our point, it's for these professional athletes to use their job and their place of work as a platform to get their ideology out.
Well,
I don't agree with it.
That's not entirely. Some of the people it is their fault, and other people it's more or less they're getting egged on by other people. There's a lot of people like during the whole kneeling thing. It's not as present as it was like in a couple of years ago.
No, and I think a lot of that is because the owners of these teams have started to crack down on it. Because they understand that from a marketing standpoint, from a business standpoint, that's just it's not a good thing.
Yeah, but what had happened? A couple of people. One, I want to say it was Ranger, but I know he served in the military.
Villarreal for the Steelers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the only one that came out of the locker room during the national anthem, and he stated because he's a veteran, he's an Army Ranger veteran. He's like, I will never kneel for the start for the national anthem.
Yeah.
And he knows that it's not. Because I think that would happen with when the kneeling thing started. That when Colin Kaepernick everybody would say, oh, he's so brave. No, the dude's just a freaking moron.
I think,
don't get me wrong.
Conspiracy theory talk and everything like that. I think he planned the whole thing so he can get his money and not play.
Well, and be that as it may, if you want to talk about being oppressed and you've had a hard life, do a little bit of digging before you start buying into their messages. Because with Colin Kaepernick, if I'm not mistaken, he was raised very comfortably by white parents who adopted him. So
that's not true. They were just using him to show that they have, power and everything.
I know that you're being cynical here or
Fuck yeah,
sarcastic.
it was ridiculous because he was all dressed up. He looked happy and everything like that. He didn't look oppressed. He didn't have any kind of sign to where, help me, please. These white people are beating me.
Yeah, and so before we start getting accused of going on these racist, tangents,
it's just to him. I just
well,
really don't like him.
Yeah, as a person, I don't respect him. Do I think that he has the skill to be a top tier? Well, I don't want to say top tier. Let's not put him in the same echelon as people like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, but. Or even the Peyton Mannings of the world, or the Manning brothers.
This is how bad I don't know sports stuff too much. I just get like little bits and pieces from other people. But the Cowboys' new quarterback.
Oh, Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Dak Prescott. And my girlfriend's going to give me shit about this one, but I don't even think Dak Prescott is considered what they would call an elite quarterback. Yeah, his passer rating. Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. I mean, he's got a good passer rating. Can he manage a game? Yeah, he has little episodes of brilliance where he can put together a drive. But do I necessarily think that he's worth the contract that he was given? No. Now, as a person, I think that everybody's very valuable. I mean. But as it relates to what your professional skills are worth, what your agent is able to haggle for you, or what you project out there into public, trying to shame the team that you're wanting to re-sign with to give you as far as a contract is concerned, it's like, yeah, I get it. All right, you're practicing capitalism on a very micro scale because you've got a particular set of skills that you're offering to bring back to the table because you want to help this organization win, and you're trying to, and you're doing it in a very physical sport where you got a lot of guys that have CTEs, you got a lot of guys that get addicted to the opiates and painkillers because it's just that hard on your body. But and you don't know how long your career is going to last. You want to make as much money as you possibly can before you have to go out and get a real job. And I get all that. But at the same time, it doesn't do any good to get these large contracts, to get these large multi-year contracts that are paying you hundreds of millions of dollars if you're going to price out the core base of fans that come to your games. If you're making your tickets for your team's games so unaffordable that your everyday fans cannot just go buy a ticket, they have to save up for months or weeks to be able to afford a cheap seat in the nosebleeds of AT&T Stadium.
Where there's usually like a pole right in front of you where you can't see.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get an obstructed view seat in the nosebleeds where you have to rely on watching the game on the gondola. Those big 4K screens that are hanging there. What's the point of going? Yeah, other than the fact to say, hey, I went to a Cowboys game. Yeah. Where were you sitting? Oh, I was sitting way at the fucking top. And then they made us move while they opened up the roof so we didn't get hit with the gears on the way by.
Did that actually happen?
No.
Okay.
But it's like, okay, so the new Yankee Stadium. Last week we talked about new versus the old stadium. The old stadium got demolished. If you watch that ESPN 30 for 30 that they did on the new stadium, there's a guy that was sitting there. He's like, yeah, I think he said he pays like $95 a seat or, a game for his season tickets or something like that. Don't quote me on the numbers, but he had the definition of an obstructed view seat. His seat was here, and there's a concrete pillar right in front of him. He has to crank his head around like this in order to see the game. And even then, he doesn't see the whole field.
Yeah, well, what Johnny was doing for the people that actually listen to us, which no one listens to us on Spotify, Johnny was averting himself to
yes, I pulled myself away from the microphone, because I'm here and you can hear me now.
Yeah.
But the obstructed view, I'm all the way hell out here, and it sounds like I'm in an echo chamber, and I can hear that in my headset. But what's the point of going to see a game live other than saying, yeah, there I was, because that years down the road when you tell that story, yeah, I was at this game. Well, okay, what happened? You're having to recall what you saw as far as like the highlights were on SportsCenter. Just stay the fuck home, But you got these guys that that want these contracts. Like Francisco Lindor, he just signed a contract for like $320 something million with the New York Mets this year.
Good Lord.
I think that these contracts, those particular contracts, are going to kill the sport because you're going to make those tickets. Because you're going to pay this guy X amount of dollars. You're going to want this output from him. Fine. If he gives it to you, great, awesome. But do I think it's worth $320 something million? Absolutely not. Mookie Betts, he's described as one of those generational players that only come along once every generation, hence the name. He was brought up through the Red Sox system. He was drafted by the Red Sox, came up through their minor league system, played for them. He helped us win a World Series. But or I think it was 2 World Series because I think he played in 2013. I'm not sure. No, don't quote me on that. No, I know for sure he played in the 2018 series, but he was offered a pretty lucrative contract to re-sign with the Red Sox. The LA Dodgers decided that we're going to offer him more. He goes and makes more. Do I fault him for going for the bigger price tag? No. But do I fault the Dodgers and to an extent fault the Red Sox for offering those huge contracts? Absolutely. I think the agents that represent these athletes are the biggest part of the problem because they're the ones that are going out saying they're filling their clients with these notions that you're worth X amount, your talent is worth this much.
Only because they can get a percentage off the
yeah, because
deal.
While you're getting rich and making the game unaffordable, you're also making your agent incredibly wealthy because you're not his only client. He's got another 10 or 15 athletes that he caters to. So while he calls you, in the middle of the night just to check to see how you're doing after he ushered you out of a strip club without the press knowing about it, he's doing the same thing for 10 to 15 other people, and he's getting rich off of it. So, but I mean, they're tearing down professional sports as a whole.
Isn't that the TV show Ballers was about?
I think so, something like that. I mean, honestly, I haven't watched a whole lot of Ballers.
I didn't.
I have the HBO Max service, so I'll check it out. And it was just because I didn't pay for HBO, so I'm like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I know about the show. I've got kind of the basic premise of it. Am I going to check it out? Yeah, probably. It'll be one of those shows that I'll just kind of sit down and kind of watch through maybe one time. Do I think it may become one of my favorites? Probably not. But, I mean, I'm more into like I like the sci-fi stuff, yeah. So, I mean, I'll watch things like Star Trek Enterprise because I just like kind of like the dark, kind of primitive technology side of it. Band of Brothers. Anytime Band of Brothers is on TV, I can't not watch it. Yes, I know for you grammar Nazis, I understand that's a double negative, but that show is impossible for me to watch. To turn away from because I love history. So it's like especially World War II history and being a 101st Airborne Division veteran. I have kind of like an emotional investment in that show. So.
I actually just finished up watching The Pacific.
Yeah, The Pacific was good. And now, do I think that it was as good as Band of Brothers? Yes and no. I think that they appealed more to like the love story side of it, the more personable, like the specific lives of these Marines as they were transitioning from the war to civilian life, kind of a thing, and they were focusing on their home life as opposed to just everything that happened in theater. It was a different kind of storytelling than Band of Brothers. The Pacific in its own right, yes, it's a very great, very legendary. I'm gonna attach that label to it, but very legendary series. And it did for the Marine Corps. It paid a lot of respects and it gave the Marine Corps a lot of its due that you kind of really saw as far as like being overseen or overlooked rather during World War II. I mean, they were responsible for that island hopping campaign all the way through the Pacific, and we started knocking on the door of mainland Japan when we landed and overtook Okinawa. But
that's what the name of that island was.
Yeah, but for me, Band of Brothers, I mean, it's more of it doesn't romanticize war by any stretch of the imagination, but to me, it really it's one of those. It's like when we play video games, right? And you get those games that have a high replay value. You can just go back and play the game. I mean, even though you've beaten the crap out of this game, it's still just an enjoyable game to go play, right?
Yeah.
For me, Band of Brothers is the same thing, and like
Supernatural for me is the same way. I'll go back and watch a couple episodes every.
Right.
I gotta pick each episode that I really want to watch.
Yeah. I started Supernatural probably about a month or so ago, and I'm like, yeah, why didn't I start watching this show sooner? But, I mean, for me, it's like, if Band of Brothers is on TV, dude, I'm going to be incredibly hard-pressed not to park my butt in front of the TV and watch it. I mean, I know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. I can recite lines. I read the book before it became a series. I mean, when Stephen A. Ambrose came out with that book, dude, I fell in love with it, because, I mean, it's like you fall in love with the men that are in that unit. I mean, and not in that manner, but, I mean, you really, from a soldier standpoint, from a veteran standpoint, you really, you identify with the personality traits of each of the men in that unit.
Yeah.
And you form an emotional attachment to those characters. And the fact that this is a fiction, or not fictional, non-fictional thing, I mean, these are real events that really happened. These are men who really exist or existed. You have that, I mean, just like with like a fictional series, like a Star Trek or a Supernatural, you develop emotional attachments to those characters. So either when the series ends or that particular character is killed off, it impacts you. Versus real life events like Band of Brothers, or the Pacific, where you form those emotional attachments to those particular service members. And when they, like with John Bastellone, the Medal of Honor winner from the Pacific, he was awarded the Medal of Honor during Guadalcanal, and then he was later killed in Iwo Jima.
He ended up having to force everybody to let him go back.
Yeah, I mean, he really lobbied. I mean, because when Medal of Honor, we need to protect you. You're a national resource, and I totally get on board with that.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was the basic fact that they wanted him as a poster boy to basically sell war bonds and everything, which we don't have that now.
No, we don't.
And even what's his name? I know Dakota Myers talked about it as soon as he got his Medal of Honor. They have like a week afterwards where they have to do show.
It's like basically a press junket. Yeah.
Yeah, dog and pony show.
Yeah.
But last thing on the sports news is Danny White threatens legal action to shut down Jake Paul versus UFC Feud.
Yeah, Jake Paul, YouTuber turned fighter.
He's actually pretty decent, but he hasn't hit somebody that was a heavy hitter. Most of the people that he's fighting right now are really low.
He's pumping his numbers up, and he's picking fights with the wrong people. He really is. I mean, this dude, to borrow a line from Robert Duvall in Top Gun, your mouth is writing checks your body can't cash. And at some point, he's going to end up flying a cargo ship full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong for the rest of his life. I mean, literally.
But you really want to see that. You want to see that train wreck.
I do. I want to see that train wreck because I have not yet watched a single Jake Paul fight live. I refuse to. Yeah,
I just usually get the clips.
I want to see him fight somebody like John Bones, or
Mayfield.
Yeah, Mayfield, you come out of retirement, just punch this dude right in the mouth,
Yeah. Or Tyson as an expedition.
Yeah, as an exhibition fight. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Some of the legends. Evander Holyfield's training to come out of retirement for an exhibition fight.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're going to get some of these guys that pound for pound are the best fighters in the world. And find even somebody who's in his weight class. And just be like, all right, go, knock this guy down a couple of notches. And they'll be like, all right, how much are you going to pay me to do it? It's like, XYZ.
Yeah, okay, at that time, it becomes almost like a hitman type mentality.
It really does. It's almost like the Saints with Bounty Gate. But
you need to. I'm going to pay you about $50 million.
Oh no! See, you need a beard like this to get that menacing mentality. You can just sit there and be like, you're gonna do this for me.
Is it a favor? Go ahead and my favorite phrase is from I think it was either Casino or Goodfellas was either your brain matter or your signature is going onto that contract, but that contract's not leaving until something's on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. That's a great line. But you know what? We've been at this for a little while now, so
yeah. We're gonna have we're closing it up.
But we can't because we still do have to talk about Patches O'Houlihan.
Well, we'll do that next time.
Next time? Really? Fine.
All right, everybody.
And to borrow a quote from the legendary Patches O'Houlihan, fine, suit yourself, queer. No. You know, so... okay, so I understand that is a very derogatory term. Let me put that disclaimer out there. Yes, I understand that it's a derogatory term. It's defaming. It's a quote from a fictional character, people. Get a grip. I don't advocate, discrimination against, anybody from the LBGQ.
The letter corp.
From the alphabet groups.
Yeah.
I'm not biased, so let's just kind of get that out there now.
It's at the end, so nobody's going to pay attention anyways.
Yeah, right. I mean, they might get 15, 20 minutes into our YouTube videos or even the podcast.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you for watching Nerd Sports. I'm David Dickerman.
I'm Johnny Skelton.
And we'll catch you next time. Love you guys.
Later.
Bye.